Tonight's show is all about coping with death and losing a loved one, which can be very devastating to so many people. So our guest tonight, Sandra Champlain, the author of the book, We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death, is here to introduce us to perhaps a whole new way of dealing with the loss of our loved ones and coping with the grieving process. So without further ado, let's put the spotlight on Sandra. And welcome to the show, Sandra.
Well, thanks, Kathy, and hi, Karen. I'm so
Hi.
happy to be here.
Oh, we're very happy to have you here.
Oh, me too. I mean, it's just great. And it's cold in Massachusetts, and we got kind of a heavy dusting of snow today, but it's nasty out, very slick.
Yeah,
So
more's coming,
I
unfortunately.
I know I'm supposed to be driving and doing a book signing on Saturday, and I love that, but I'm also a big wimp, and I hate driving in the snow. So we're going to just keep positive intentions.
There you go.
What else can we do? But yeah, thanks for having me here. I'm super excited.
And we're excited to have you as well.
Good. It's the perfect time, I think, too, because the holidays are around the corner and even though I do share a lot about grief, this is actually the perfect time because it's very hard, especially sometimes when we see the Christmas lights and hear the holiday music, but
Hmm.
also really talking about life and to believe in life after death. To get you through the holidays is a really great thing. So I hope I really will give you 110% that I can make a difference with everybody who's listening tonight.
Yeah, I
Well,
know that this time of year I worked on a mental health unit for a while, and I know this time of year is especially difficult for everyone. Um, with the grief and depression and different things, I saw a lot of effects on people, and this was the busiest time of year, it seemed, during the holidays.
Oh, absolutely. And we can't help it. I mean, we have so many stored memories that are even at like a cellular level that just sometimes hearing just a certain song can just trigger even, good memories from the past. But if we don't have the people in our life, I mean, that instantly equates to grief or sadness.
Hmm.
So it's out of our control. A lot of our thinking and a lot of our habits are out of our control. It's all stored somewhere deep within our minds.
which brings us to your book.
Yes, it does. I like that.
So
Where
you
would
want
you like to start? I mean, no pun intended, an open book, but I will go wherever you want to go and play however you want to play and make a difference. So what would you
how
like to
about
talk about?
just a small synopsis right now of what the book is about?
Absolutely. Um, yeah, the title is We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death. And basically the book is my journey from being a real skeptic, cynic, didn't believe in life after death, except for faith, which we learned in church. But I never believed in psychics or mediums or anybody who believed in that kind of thing. I would say was a lunatic. I mean, I was very opinionated and I went through a fear of dying, very, very big fear of dying, which led me secretly on this private journey that lasted about 15 years of looking for credible evidence that our souls go on, that I have nothing to fear, that we don't die. And I accumulated so much information that rested my mind. And I think I had just about everything it, and I was fine about 2005. And I thought, well, someday I should tell people because, I knew that when we experience loss, there's a lot of pain. But the thing is being such a skeptic before and really bad-mouthing people who believed in things of this nature, I was afraid to come forward and tell people my own thoughts and my beliefs. So I stayed really quiet. I very conveniently kept busy in my own life and put this on the someday but not now list. And then fast forward to 2010, my dear father gets diagnosed with cancer. I relocate to Florida to be by his side for the last 5 months of his life. And the grieving process kicked in. Of course, I didn't know it at the time, but we can grieve someone or an illness before someone even passes away. And what that looked like in my life was severe sadness, um, incredible miscommunications and arguments with my siblings about Dad's care. Dad ends up passing away on May 11th, 2010, and I hit an all-time low of sadness, depression, couldn't see a way out, really heavy-duty arguments with my siblings. In fact, not only grieving the loss of my dad, but grieving the loss of my siblings, because somehow I got labeled as the greedy sister, which I didn't see coming. And so I lost my relationships with them. So out of this deep, dark place, for some reason, I started thinking, well, I wonder if this is all a part of grief. And so I got really down and dirty into the world of grief, things that most of us know about, that there's going to be anger and there's going to be guilt and all these different, they call them stages. And whether they're stages or not, there's a whole bunch of things that happen as part of grief. But I found out how our brain gets impacted because of grief. And the knowledge that I found was so new to me that I thought, gosh, if other people knew this, I mean, because it explained, and I can get into it in just a little while, more details, it explained to me why good, loving people fight, why there's so much pain, why, this whole world, and it helped me through my pain. And so as a good Samaritan, I created a free audio that I thought would help other people. I called it How to Survive Grief. And I posted it on the internet. I bought the domain name survivegrief.com from GoDaddy or whoever was around at that time. And basically in just a few months after Dad died, over 3,000 people downloaded this audio. And I had only made a few posts on Facebook. So that showed me how many people, first of all, are grieving, and also how good the words were, because people started reporting that it eased their pain. It gave them compassion dealing with their loved ones instead of fighting. And the final thing that I said, this needs to be in a book, is people started reporting that they were so depressed they were going to commit suicide, and they chose not to because of my words, because they understood the deepness and the darkness they were feeling was part of grief, and they took my steps to get through it, and they have life. And so, not wanting to come forward with my big story about life after death, suddenly it's like, holy cow, I can really help and save lives with this information about grief. But you know what? I'm not the grief lady. I'm very playful. I'm very much about life. We all will experience grief, and I think that we need to be educated about it. And so I had another aha moment, that if I had the courage to come forward and share everything that I discovered about life after death, and then I'm going to slip in one chapter on grief, because like it or not, people are going to learn. I want no more suicide. I want no more families coming apart. And I want people's pain to be eased faster than without this information. And then, so that's part of the book, is the grieving process and how to work through it. And then the rest of the book is how to live life while we're here on planet Earth. So given that we don't die, who are we really, and how to have a powerful life while we're here and really get your money's worth out of life. So the book is listed into two different categories in bookstores. It's in the grieving section, yes, and it hit number 1. I'm thankful in that category in the US, UK, and Canada on Amazon, but it's also rated as one of the top motivational books in the world also. It hit number 4, top motivational book, just under Dr. Phil this past summer, and it's like, oh my gosh. So it's a very, very good feel-good book, and really so we can claim our lives for ourselves and have a great life.
And that had to have some impact on you doing it.
Oh, you want to hear if I can give you a secret? I think I wrote it for me.
Yeah.
because the day came when I really felt like I have to write this. And so magically, as miracles happen, because gosh, I've just been on this train of really wonderful coincidences and miracles. Um, the publisher that I met, you know what's funny? What were we talking? I had one of those moments that I'm so excited I went blank. Wait a
The
minute.
impact. We were talking
Oh
about
yeah, 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 yeah. Oh gosh, everybody's gonna think I'm an airhead. I'm not. I'm just very excited. So when I got the okay, when the publisher was in conversation with me about writing the book, he said, have you ever written anything? And I said, no. How do you know you can write? Well, I don't know, but I think I can. So I literally pictured a person in front of me that was very much like me before I went on my discovery. Someone who was skeptical, who wanted to believe, who had some loss in their life, who wasn't happy in life. I mean, life was okay, but the same negative things can often keep happening to us. And so I just wrote my story to this person who was me, and I put it all out there because, there's so many books out there. There's millions of books, I think, and there's some great ones and there's some really awful ones. And I wanted something I could reread for the rest of my life that would empower me to have a great day every day and look at the big picture. So it's extremely healing to myself. And I think that's why I'm so passionate about it, is because it still impacts my life.
and it's something that everybody has in common.
Yes.
Everybody lost somebody at some point, and I mean, it's human. It's a human feeling, the grieving process.
Yeah. We don't want to
Now,
think about it, but it creeps up.
yeah, it's true. And being we're just at the beginning of this, and I just got a question from the chat room. I'd like to know if you don't mind taking this question.
I'll try.
Okay, and they'd like to know that um, you had such a strong resistance to the afterlife in the past. You know, why was that resistance there? Why weren't you open to the possibility
Well,
of,
of something else. I
yeah,
think for me, I think my skepticism came at a young age with maybe a series of heartaches with, I won't get too specific over some things I believed as a child that I found out were not true. Um, and we all have this voice inside of our head, and some people call it the inner critic, and I call it the voice in my book. But if we stop talking for just a second, we can hear it. And for some people, it just says, well, what little voice? And I think most of us, when we wake up in the morning, we're very quick to press the snooze button, and we're very quick to think, how can we stay in bed and think about all the things we don't want to do. We get up, we look in the mirror, and oh, we're too fat, we're too ugly, we're not good enough. I'm 47 years old. I'm still single. The little voice is saying you're going to always be a spinster. You got to get.
oh my God,
I mean, it's all. But now I'm blowing it way out of proportion, but not really,
right,
because some days are better than others. But the
true.
thing is that we all have this voice, and one of the things I want to make sure everybody knows is that that voice is not you. It is a series of things that have happened in our past that have shaped us to who we are, what we believe, what we say is true, what we say is false. And given my upbringing and just the decisions that I had made at a very young age, if if I didn't see something, I didn't believe it was real. I had a dad who was an airline pilot, and the truth is if dad said something, that was the truth, because dad was my anchor to life, and he,
Right.
dad said it. I mean, he's a pilot, he knows. So if
Yeah.
dad said, you know, mediums and psychics, all that's a hoax, well, then it is. Dad said it. I mean, I didn't even question my beliefs. And so I think that was all part of it. And yes, we went to church as a family every Sunday, but everything really seemed like stories, stories of Jesus, stories of heaven, stories of angels. But all those things theoretically made sense that I shouldn't be scared, but try to tell somebody who's really scared, oh, just trust me. It just wasn't good enough.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna say you mentioned in your book that you had a pretty big fear of death, but that you weren't real sure where it had come from.
I think I figured it
I
out.
was gonna say that was actually, oh my
My
gosh, you like
mother, God
totally
love
read
her.
my
She's like,
you
she's
totally read my mind.
my mom's my biggest fan. She's just the best. But she says, Sandra, you keep saying you're not sure where it came from. But she says, when you look back, you lost some of your pets. Your dad got diagnosed with cancer. When I was 14, he was given 3 months to live. Now he survived, but it was a pretty heavy blow when I was a kid. Then I went on to work. I'm a chef by trade. Before
Ah.
being an author, I'm a chef. Where I got my start is I used to work in nursing homes. And I used to work in the kitchen. I used to volunteer, and then eventually I started cooking. But in the afternoon, after my shift, I would go up and be with the residents. And you know what? Sometimes I'd go to work and they wouldn't be there any longer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so easy to get, like I said, get busy in life and forget things. But, when I start looking back, that was painful. One lady left me all of her cookbooks, but like, where did she go? And when you spend enough time with someone, even if it's a stranger, and you just hear them tell stories and you hold their hand, and here I was, maybe 16, 17-year-old kid, just listening and loving people because it's so easy to love, and then they're gone. So on top of having, fast forward to 1996 when my life just wasn't going so great, and all of a sudden, you look up at the stars at night and we think of the vastness of the universe and gosh, is this what it's all about? I mean, who am I and what is my life for and what happens after I go? I mean, all these questions just hit me so hard, and how it represented inside my body was just tremendous fear. Tremendous.
Wow.
Mm.
When, some people, I know there's always fighting in families. I mean, when someone passes away,
Yeah.
it's sad, but it does happen. Most families, like if they lose a child, the husband and wife may split up, or, just the siblings fighting amongst if a parent passes away. How would you say that comes into play, you know, as part of the grieving, or not grieving? Maybe it's coming out that way.
Yeah, it's a great question because the truth be told, my relationships with my siblings still aren't healed. And I would love to be on your show saying, just read my book and your life will be magically transformed. Well, it,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work that way. But here's what I see ultimately is I think each one, and I will answer your question, that each one of us are on a journey, and sometimes out of our most painful events in our life, do we get to find out who we are and what our life is for. So without my dad dying the way he did, without the fear showing up how it did, without my research that I swear I would have never told anybody, and suddenly between my audio and the book, there's over 10,000 people who have learned the message here. Um, like I have this vision of that I have this vision of being on the Dr. Phil show and being reunited with my family. And it may sound silly, but I think I am so driven to make a difference, to share these words, because maybe I need to change the world just to um, get my siblings back. I'm not sure, but I'm really fueled by how many families come apart. Almost 50% of siblings come apart when a parent dies. You mention couples that get divorced when a child dies. 80% of couples get divorced when the child dies. And I really needed to know why. Why would this happen? Because you
Yeah.
think when you lose somebody, that's the time you come together. Well,
Right.
just a bit about grief. When we grieve, our And this is on the brain level. This is like we have no choice in the matter. I don't care how strong, how educated you are. If you love someone and they disappear from your life, you're going to go through the grieving process. The brain has to rearrange itself for the new reality. And what I like to compare grief to, and this might be a poor comparison, but people seem to understand it. If it's like comparing somebody who's addicted to a substance, and if we're addicted to that substance, we're getting this whether it feels good or not, something like we've got to have in our system. Well, when we love someone, we have that chemical fix in our brain. When we lose that person, we are no longer getting that fix, and we go through withdrawals. Now, our withdrawals from grief are heavy, heavy duty. And I don't need to go into all the symptoms and side effects because we know how much it hurts. But we're not getting that fix. Now, if you imagine somebody who's coming off of a drug or alcohol dependency, you know, we have compassion for them because they're not right. I mean, you can see it. I mean, they're just in a huge amount of pain. Would you put any value in the words that they say that they're the truth? I mean, they could be spouting out all kinds of things and their poor brain might not have a handle on reality. Well, it's the same thing. This is the big aha moment I had with grieving. We lose so much of our brain chemicals while we're grieving, and that explains for the depression, the sadness, the anger, you know, all of those things, the sleepless nights. But also, I don't know if you've found this, but most people who are grieving report that their memory stinks. Like, I don't remember where I put the keys. Did I do this? I thought I did this. Did I say
Right.
this? I'm not sure I said
Mm-hmm.
this. Well, having the low brain chemicals that we do, it impacts our thinking, our memory, our perception. See, this is how I'm getting into all these fights that end up happening.
Right.
If you have, say even a healthy mind, two people witness a car accident, you know, we hear these stories that these two people will have different stories even though they both saw it. So this is our perception, how we perceive reality. Well, a grieving brain is really can't differentiate and thinks it's storing things exactly like it's happened, but it could be so far from the truth. And so if you have two grieving brains, both grieving the same loss, trying to communicate, we might think we're saying one thing, but the other person might be hearing it a completely different way. So what happens are these arguments. Now, we don't realize that we're not perceiving correctly, and we may not be speaking correctly. So grieving families have I don't want to say no clue, but there's no way of knowing that we're both communicating all on the same subject. So there is a ton of miscommunications. There's a ton of arguments. Even within my own family, I got an email not too long ago from my younger sister, and her version of what happened when Dad died, and she's still holding it as like it happened yesterday. And it's so real for her, this label she put on me, and it's not even close to what happened or what the truth is. And so we hear these stories that people can go 30 years without talking to someone or to their grave without talking to a parent. And I'm out to shake people up that have compassion when you have a loss in your family. Here's a great example of how these words can work. One of my readers knew that her dad was very close to dying, and she actually requested that her 5 brothers and sisters read the grief chapter in We Don't Die, and they did. And so they were very prone to fighting even way before Dad got sick, but they were able to realize they're going to want to fight. They're going to be miscommunications, and they decided to use the tools to work through it. And those 6 kids stayed together during the whole process of dividing up Dad's stuff, you know, dealing with the funeral and all that. And so she called just to thank me because it wouldn't have gone that way. She didn't think. So
Wow.
it's big business.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it just, like I said, it just affects every single person in the
Oh,
world. I
it
mean,
does.
there's nobody that has
No.
not gone through it.
Mm,
So, and then to find something that can help like that, that does wonders for people. You're putting such a fantastic thing out there.
Oh
Yeah.
You
yeah.
And
really are.
it may not be the answer for everybody. I tell you, I get so many, that's why I love my subtitle,
Uh,
A Skeptic's Discovery, because it's like my only request is people read it before they have a real big challenge with me, because it's like, I was a skeptic too, so I know what you're going to ask. Give it a try. I mean, it is, it's so funny because, hundreds of years ago, everybody believed that the earth was flat. I mean, they knew it. They didn't even believe it. I mean, it was the truth. And then, Galileo circumnavigated the globe and proved that the earth is round. Well, there are people that just straight out refused to believe it. And it took 300 years to convince some people, to convince like the population as a whole, that it really was round, so it takes some time and just to even question things, looking around. I don't know exactly where you guys are sitting, but, just looking at all the stuff around us. I mean, everything is made up of energy, just vibrating energy. If we put a camera inside one of the atoms of, even, if you look at your hand, it's made up of molecules and those molecules are atoms. And if we put a miniature camera in there, it wouldn't pick up anything. It's just invisible space, but there's something that is in there, and that's energy, just vibrating energy. I mean, that voice that we talk about, that inner critic, does such a great job convincing us is what we see as reality, where meanwhile, I mean, we are living in some miraculous world.
this is the truth.
Mhm.
I also have one more question. I People oftentimes get very angry after someone passes away. They're
Yes.
mad that they died. They're mad that they were taken. I have a cousin who lost a son. He had leukemia. He was in his late 20s, early 30s. Until today, and this was now, it has to be over 20 years that he's passed or close to it. And she, till today, is angry.
Yes.
She just cannot let go. I mean, how do you deal with that? How do you bring somebody past that anger? Because I don't think some people will ever open their eyes to, and I don't know even if it's they get angry and then it's coping without them in their life.
Right. There's
You
an
know,
impact to that anger. And I mean, the other thing like anger is guilt that a lot of people wrestle with and they just can't let go of. And
it's
first of all,
masqueraded as guilt sometimes too.
yeah,
True. Yeah, you're right.
it's having compassion, first of all, for ourselves. One of the things, it's like, riding a bicycle. Once, if you try to ride a bicycle and you don't know what balance is, you're never going to succeed. Well, learning about grief, one of the things that we do pick up, and it's on autopilot, is the feelings of anger, the feelings of guilt. It's part of it. The problem is, if you don't know that it's a natural part of the grieving process, we might, and this is what happens often, we think it's the truth. We think, our guilt. I mean, my grandmother uh, died, and she was healthy, and she had a brain aneurysm, and she was gone one night. Well, that during the day, I thought, well, I should call Grammy. And you know what? I didn't. I got so busy with whatever I was doing. I thought, well, I'll call her tomorrow. Well, I never had that opportunity. And I kept replaying over and over and over in my mind how I should have called her, how I should have called her, how I should have called her. And needless to say, had I not found out what I found out about the grieving brain, I could be holding on to that to this day. The more you think a thought, whether it be anger or guilt, the more you think it, the more your mind will automatically make you think it. Like I said, it's like brushing your teeth. The more you brush your teeth, the more you're going to want to brush your teeth, hopefully.
True.
The more you think a guilty thought, we develop these new neural patterns in our brain that our brain will give you that thought even if you don't request it. So my advice for people really is well, learn about grief, important. I still have that free audio on survivegrief.com that gives these tools, by the way. A little plug for that, completely free. Just press the play button. But when you realize that your brain's going to do this, it's going to become autopilot. What we have to do is catch ourselves, if you're open to it. Now, some people aren't open. They won't even listen. But it's to catch yourself in the act. Catch yourself like, oh, wait a minute, there's that thought again. And you just can't help it. I mean, it's so easy for thoughts to sneak in. When you can catch yourself in the act, there it is. Try to get yourself in the present moment. If you're, I don't know, I've got a cat. So, okay. So sitting, all of a sudden there's the cat. Okay, pet the cat. Just pay 100% attention to the cat. Feel the cat's fur under your fingertips. Maybe you hear it purring. Get your mind off of the thought of the anger or the guilt and just be there with the cat. And then slide in an empowering thought. And an empowering thought could be something of gratitude, like, gosh, I'm so lucky I have this cat, or that I have this little bundle of love, or whatever that is. And it's
Right.
kind of like putting the mind on a detour. And and it takes something. And I had one of my readers who loved the book, and she says, God, I wish it would help my mother. My mother, the dad had died, and the mother had locked herself into the house for 5 months. They
Wow.
were married 46 years, I think. And so the daughter decided, she tried to give the mom the book, We Don't Die. And the mother's like, I don't believe in any of that. Don't even leave it in this house. Well, she did. She left it in the house. Lo and behold, the mother not only read it, but she claimed her life again. She left the house. She's now taking country line dancing classes and a painting class. She's out with her friends. She's moved on, and it really takes something, but it is possible. So don't give up on the people in your life, and have compassion that they
Oh
don't
yeah.
know that they're doing this, but there is a way out. There is.
Yeah. I didn't want to sound hard or crass. I just
No,
trying to help and all these
absolutely.
years, it's like, you just keep hitting a brick wall because nothing was penetrating.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna have to slip her your book.
Slip it right in there, or the grief audio too. And
Yeah.
just, yeah. However,
Now, you mentioned in the book that I saw a quote by you. It was probably on some of the paperwork that I got in your press kit, that our brains are actually going through a chemical change during grief. How much has that been studied? Do you know
it
scientifically if it's been like studied or
yeah, it has been scientifically studied. It just hasn't gotten broadcast to the world.
okay?
Kind of like the whole life after death thing. I mean, there's plenty of us skeptics still walking the planet, while there's plenty of evidence that our souls go on besides uh, what we know. I mean, gosh, we've all heard of Dr. Raymond Moody, who coined the phrase near-death experience.
Mm-hmm.
And, our skeptical minds want to fight. No, no, the brain, when we shut down, we just see bright lights, and that's it. And there's no explanation, no truth to near-death experiences. Well, this man studied over 200,000 of them. He's a very credible doctor. And in addition, there's Dr. Ken Ring. I don't know if you guys know him, but he took Dr. Moody's evidence and went one step further, and only studied the near-death experiences of blind people, people who have never had vision in their life. And when they had those moments of flatlining, not only rising above their beds in the hospital when they're being worked upon, but actually seeing for the first time and giving really documented things of what they saw and what they experienced. And it's, one lady floated above, and she saw her husband in the next room with the doctor, saw the husband was wearing a green shirt, saw the doctor dropped his pen, husband bent over and picked it up, and she saw that with a vision that she's never had in life. And I've got so many different stories, whether it's in the world of reincarnation or remote viewing or electronic voice phenomena, or there's something called induced after-death communication that was founded by someone who was a psychologist for the VA hospitals who didn't even believe in life after death. And he stumbled upon a procedure to connect people with their deceased loved ones very accurately. And, it's one of those things where the evidence is out there for whether it's the chemical process in the brain or life after death or the ability we all have of having I call it remote viewing, but having psychic abilities, ESP, those kind of things. Like it's all possible. The evidence is all out there. There's not enough people like the three of us that are willing to put our reputation on the line and put this on loudspeaker so that people can experience it, they can learn it, and then all of a sudden, hopefully it won't take 300 years like the whole earth is flat, that we can really let people know that we are so much more powerful than we know ourselves to be.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, I think the message we all share is, because I know you two, is that people, your listeners, ourselves, that we have the best quality life while we're here. And nothing wrong with having a miracle or two and some fun and some love and some adventure.
Yeah. Well, while we're on the topic of this, I have a question from the chat room. And if it's from Mark, and Mark would like to know if you heard of the book, What Dreams Make. And he says, according to him, the interview research with people who claim to have afterlife communication. So he was wondering if you happened to have read the book and what your thoughts were.
It broke up a little bit on this side, what you said. Did you say What Dreams May Come? Is that?
Yes,
No.
that's the name of the book. Are you familiar with that? He had wanted to know.
Well, I've had seen the movie with Robin Williams, and that's the only familiarity I have had with it. And that was back in the day when I was skeptical. And the truth is I've never rewatched it or read the book to give it a second time around. I enjoyed it. And I think maybe somewhere it planted the seed for me that there is something. Because like I said, I don't think any part of my path has been an accident. And so I think even seeing a film like that possibly opened my mind that there really could be something else.
Well, with that film in mind, I mean, you were saying in your book that heaven is closer than we think.
Yeah,
And
I love that.
I, like many people, was probably taught in Sunday school, heaven is above.
You're right.
So where is heaven?
Well,
I've also heard that it's 3 feet off the ground of where I am right now.
don't you love that? Well, I don't know, about 3, 2.5, 4. I'm not real certain. But here's the thing. Okay. So I spoke just a minute ago or a few minutes ago about this, how we're all made up of energy. And now this is science. This isn't any woo-woo mumbo jumbo. We are all made up of energy. Well, everything's made up of energy. So around me and maybe you right now, we have the wireless internet. I have an iPhone that is not connected to any wires, yet it allows me to get information about all kinds of things all over the world. And my voice can connect. My wireless internet is around, but I don't see it. Somehow it's sending a signal to, this GPS signal up to a satellite. It can pick exactly where I am. How the heck do radio waves work? I do not know, but there is some phenomena that people could be driving in their car right now. Again, sound is not connected to anything, and lo and behold, we're able to hear. We are made up of energy. Everything around us is energy. There is around us an invisible space that this whole other world is happening. And those are those GPS signals, wireless internet, sound waves, all that. It's real. We cannot see it. Heaven or the hereafter is real, although we cannot see it. You know when we can see it? When we quiet our minds. That's when we can tap into this other place, this other source. I know that when a log burns, It changes form. It may not be a log anymore. It may turn to ash and it may turn to heat. The log is gone. The energy survives. There could be a puddle in the ground, and this nice sunny day comes. The puddle disappears. Is the water gone from its current shape? Yeah. Is it gone? No. It turned to, a vapor or a cloud or whatever. When our bodies die, this shell, whatever this is, this vehicle that we're living in, the car that we're living in, if you want to call it that, and we're the driver, it disappears. But our personality, who we survive. And heaven is, I say, all around us in the same invisible place that, these wireless signals are. And here we're approaching the holidays, which could be, for many of us, one of the hardest times of the year. And I challenge you, all of us, our brains will automatically want to grieve. It'll want us to think about the past, how we had it this way, or now we don't have it this way, or this person may be gone. I want you to imagine as you're decorating your Christmas tree, or if you're sitting around the dining room table, that person that you have loved and you've lost may not be there in physical form, but they are still there. You can talk to them. You can trust that they're there. If you can quiet your mind from this chit-chat that it always wants to throw about thinking about this or that, and you get an image of that person and you think of them, very likely you could be hearing their messages. On my website, which is wedon'tdie.com, I have a 20-minute audio called Reconnections. And that's free too. And what it does is it puts your mind in that quiet space and allows you to have a reconnection with someone you have loved and that is no longer physically here. And it's very healing. And I say use it around the holiday times, and you'll have a whole different kind of holiday time than you normally would have. But know that your brain's going to want to fight you and going to want to convince you to be angry and guilty and sad. But, catch yourself in the act and put something positive in.
I believe that. I have to agree with you there.
Thanks.
I firmly believe that.
Is there a hell?
Well, I think we're in it already.
I've heard that before. That's most anymore. You most likely hear somebody say, "We're living in it," and
yeah,
when we're gone from here,
I
then
think
we'll have our heaven.
I think we need light to know darkness, and I think we need sadness to know joy. And I do believe where this heaven is, regardless of its a place up in the clouds or 3 feet off the floor, is a place of good. However, to know, like if you were in heaven or the hereafter all the time, and just like if you were here and you got your favorite food 24 hours of the day, 7 days a week, no matter how much you might like pizza's going to get pretty darn boring.
Mm-hmm.
You need to know not pizza. And so, that's pretty poor comparison to heaven and hell, but you know what I'm getting at. And I think Earth is the place where we can experience the downs and the ups. And, I watched my dad die a very horrible death to cancer. And I have never seen a human being suffer like I saw him suffer. And I don't have the explanation why that had to be so bad. And that's one of those times that I can only use faith. And I read to him some quotes in the Bible about suffering, and I had nowhere else to reach to. So I don't have all the answers. I don't pretend to, but I would say where he was experiencing would be probably the closest to hell I could imagine. Mm-hmm. And there's much other worse kinds of suffering I know on the planet. So I think it can be pretty bad here, but also pretty good.
But you also have in your book listed 10 daily habits
to supercharge your life.
Yes. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those?
I sure can. Well, one of the things I'm very passionate about is people being in the driver's seat of their life, not being a victim to the little voice that's dictating how they're going to live their life. And so often, you hear these stories that people die with regrets. And I'd even met a heart surgeon who's done over, gosh, I think I want to say like 6,000 operations. And when he meets with the patients that one last time before going under the knife, they all have regrets, all of them. What they didn't say or what they should have done differently or things that they should have done. And what would it be like to live life and not have those regrets? So by not listening to that little voice, that makes a huge difference. So some of my habits are like in the morning, remember how I said you wake up and you look in the mirror and, oh, geez. Well, you can do that. Or you could keep a journal by your bed. And just when you wake up in the morning, no matter what your first thoughts are, take just 2 minutes and write down, what are some of the successes you've had in your life? Because the little voice in your head only wants to concentrate on the negative. It doesn't remind you of the positive. So take a few minutes. What are some of the successes you've had in your life? And then also, what are some of the things that, if I were to ask somebody who loves you what some of your best qualities are, what would they say? They'd say, oh, loving, generous, funny, great sense of humor. Well, write down those things because that little voice is going to want to pull for all the negative. But if we were to really think about it, the people in our life see us so positive. That's who we really are. So that one exercise will have you get out of bed in the morning and have a little bit more excitement to your day and not feeling so bad. Some other things is be in the present moment as much as possible. Use your five senses. I myself can admit I am addicted to the internet. And when I get a ding of a text message, I mean, I drop everything. I have to see who texted me. But we're so addicted that sometimes we miss hearing a beautiful song, or we could be sitting right next to a wonderful person that maybe we just have a conversation. Or instead of inhaling a plate of food while watching TV, really be present and taste the flavors on your tongue. Another habit is make a difference for another person. Very hard to be caught up in our own negativity when we take the time, and you were mentioning this in the beginning of the show, Kathy, about making a difference for another person, going outside of yourself to do good. Taking an action towards your dream is one of the habits. We all have dreams. We can all visualize how we want our life to be. However, there's this thing called fear that often stops us from taking the next step. To actually take one step through fear, and you realize a lot of times fear is just an illusion, but you can have a result, a new result that you wouldn't have normally had. I give homework of laughter because laughter is something that raises our vibrations, makes us feel better. Remote viewing, we probably don't have time to get into that, but I like to teach people how to do this ESP technique to quiet their mind. So if you had a magazine that's in front of you and you've never opened it before, you can actually have the intention of what pictures are in that magazine. And your mind will come up with all kinds of crazy images, and you have a notebook and you start writing them down. Well, after about 15 minutes or so, you start going through these pages in the magazine, and suddenly you see that what you just wrote down on that piece of paper are actually images in the magazine. This is a mind-blowing tool to use, but what it does is it teaches us all and actually reminds us all that we can't possibly just be this body if we are able to see like this. And we could very easily have a friend in Australia and you're remote viewing something on their coffee table. There's a gratitude exercise in the 10 daily habits that even if you don't feel like it, the voice inside of your head is not going to want you to do this. You take some time, and like it almost feels like punishment in the beginning, but if you were to write down 50 things you're grateful for, in the process of writing down those things and really paying attention to why you're grateful for them, oh my gosh, it puts you in the best mood ever. And even looking at the very, very smallest things can put you in a great, great, great mood. And why is it important to supercharge our life? Well, one, a happy, healthy, whole person who sees possibility as opposed to a life of being a victim, well, this person tends to get a lot done, tends to have a lot of friends, and I do believe whether you call it the law of attraction or something else, I believe the more good feeling energy that we can be radiating, the more good stuff will come back to us, or like be attracted in our space, or however you want to say that. I've had plenty of instances that great, great, great things have happened, and it's all started within myself and others, our thoughts and our visualizations, and then taking these actions correlated. So yeah, it's kind of like keeping a finely tuned car as opposed to driving on empty and not washing your car and not taking care of it. So we're given this body for just such a short time, and it actually does feel good to live this way.
It does.
Unfortunately, speaking of time, ours is running out.
Oh, how does that
I
happen?
know, an
I
hour
know.
goes really, really fast. So what we'd like for you to do is tell everyone where they can find you and remind them again the name of your book, and we'll kind of go from there.
I have such a huge smile on my face. Hope other people do too. My name is Sandra Champlain, and the best website to find me is wedon'tdie.com. There's no apostrophe, just wedon'tdie.com. And the book, We Don't Die, A Skeptic's Discovery of Life After Death, is available at your favorite bookstore, or if you're a ebook reader, Nook, Kindle, you can get it wherever you buy books. So, also another little great thing I can share is I had a tremendous skeptic read my book, and not only a skeptic and a cynic, but an atheist. And he not only loved We Don't Die, but he is an Emmy Award winning filmmaker, and he flew to Massachusetts, spent 2 days with me, and filmed me talking about all the things that changed his life that are within the book. So there's a 50-minute video on wedon'tdie.com that people can watch. It's a documentary, me talking and me sharing some of the cool experiences. Um, yeah,
That's
that's
great.
that's it. Yeah.
Well, this Howard just went too quick. It's been incredible. It
Thank you.
really has. You've put so much out there, and it does help a lot of people. You do reach a lot of people. And even if one person hears it and it changes something for them or reads the book and helps them in some way, it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing you're putting out there. It really
Yeah.
is.
And my intention even for now, and not everybody's going to buy the book. That's fine. Oh yeah, survivegrief.com. You can check that out too if you are grieving, to get some more tools. But I really wanted to give so that regardless, like I said, if they buy the book or not, that you leave this hour with us feeling just a bit better than perhaps when you started.
There you go. Well
Yeah,
said.
Thank you.
we'll have you hang on the line for us in just a minute, and we'll talk to you for a few minutes after the show. Kathy, if you'll invite everyone to come next week and tell them who our guest is going to be.
Oh boy. Next